This is a blue-gray gnatcatcher. It's a tiny little bird. Has that white eye ring, has that white along the edges of the tail. And you'll hear these little birds mewing kind of like a cat. Now there's the next example also mews like a cat, and that's where it gets its name from. But this little guy sounds like a little cat. And usually when you find these birds, you're probably going to find other migrant birds or little wintering birds with it as part of feeding flocks. This is the gray catbird. This is one of the mimic thrushes like mockingbirds and thrashers. And it sounds like a cat, but it's only here in the wintertime, from about October until April. This is a house wren. This, as the name implies, this is a bird that can be found in people's backyards. And it's different from the Carolina wren in that it doesn't have that big white eyebrow, if you remember when I showed you the Carolina wren. It's kind of a plain little bird, but it likes living in urban areas. This is our wintering woodpecker. This is the yellow-bellied sapsucker. Yes, there is actually a bird called a yellow-bellied sapsucker. And this is it. This is the male. What a beautiful woodpecker. Only here in the wintertime and can be found in people's backyards. This is a bird that, as the name suggests, it sucks sap from trees, and it'll form rows of holes on the tree. If you've ever seen a tree that has these nice even rows of holes in it, it's probably a sapsucker that's done that. Okay, this is the other nightjar. I showed you the common nighthawk before. This is a Chuck-Will's widow. They nest in the Everglades and in pinelands throughout Florida, but in the wintertime, people find them in their backyard. A member of Tropical Audubon, Nancy Moreland, every year she has a Chuck-Will's widow that sits on her purple martin pole. She has purple martin gourds in front of her house, and there's a Chuck-Will's widow that will sit there. They come out at night. They're birds that have these huge mouths, and they eat insects. And they're nocturnal, or actually more crepuscular, which means that they feed mostly just at dawn and dusk. But this bird, if you go into the Everglades in the summertime, you'll hear them calling, Chuck-Will's widow, Chuck-Will's widow, all night. I do surveys to find how many there are. I never see any, I just hear them, and that's how I count them. Okay, this is the first of many warblers that you can see in Miami. This is an American redstart. This doesn't nest here. They're only found here during migration in the winter. This is the male. This is a northern Parula warbler. There's about almost 60 different kinds of warblers. About 40 of them can be found at some time of the year in Florida. I'm just going to show you a few of them. Okay? Northern Parula. This is a prairie warbler. This is a black-throated blue warbler. In most cases, I'm showing you the males. So you can see why it's called the black-throated blue. The female, it's mostly brown, but it has that little white spot on its wing, and that's the only way you can identify it. This is a yellow-throated warbler, black and white warbler. An ovenbird, which is one of the ground warblers. They walk on the ground like chickens. This is a palm warbler. This is probably the most common warbler that you're going to see in the wintertime. You see them on the ground, and they have yellow under the tail, and they flick their tails up and down when they're feeding or hopping around. So that's how you identify these. And another really common warbler is the yellow-rumped warbler. You can see why it's called a yellow-rumped warbler. They form big flocks in the wintertime here. Okay, this is the red-eyed vireo. See how it's very similar to the black-whiskered vireo, but it doesn't have the black whisker. This is only here during migration. This one doesn't winter here. This is a white-eyed vireo, as the black iris, but a black pupil, but the iris is white. Vireos are very similar to warblers, but they have slightly thicker bills, as how you identify them. This is a blue-headed vireo, just here in the wintertime. And this is a yellow-throated vireo, which is just here during migration for the most part. Maybe a few will winter. Hummingbirds. There's only one hummingbird that nests in the eastern United States, and it's this one, the ruby-throated hummingbird. So if you have plants like firebush in your backyard, it'll be attractive to ruby-throated hummingbirds, and we'll talk about those kinds of plants in a little bit. This is the male with the ruby throat. The female doesn't have that ruby throat. Sometimes this hummingbird will show up. This is a hummingbird of the western United States called the rufous hummingbird. And a couple of these have been reported in Miami this winter, but it's rare. But it's really the only other hummingbird that we would expect here. The painted bunting. Okay, one of the most beautiful of all the songbirds in North America. This is the male. The female is all green. These are seed-eating birds. You can tell by just looking at the shape of the bill that it's designed for cracking seeds. This is an indigo bunting. So now we're going to get into some really colorful songbirds. The summer tanager. A few of these will winter here, but mostly seen during migration. The scarlet tanager, only during migration, never is wintered here. Different from the summer in that it has the black wings and the black tail. The summer is all red. This is a rose-breasted grosbeak. This is the male that has the rose breast. The female is brownish in color. This is a Baltimore oriole. And again, that's the male. The female is duller. We do have a hawk that just winters here, very similar to the Cooper's hawk. This is the sharp-shinned hawk. So in the wintertime, you have to look at the size of the bird to figure out what it is. The sharp-shinned hawk is much smaller than the Cooper's hawk. Smaller head, smaller body. But both of them have long tails. That's how you tell them from other hawks.